feedback as they do their presentation today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Julie Green and Maria White from the DNC's Office of the Secretary.
Good morning and good afternoon. This is Julie Green. I'm sitting here with my deputy Maria. I think I've had the opportunity to meet most of you, and I'm sure in a few short months I will have had the opportunity to meet all of you. We're really looking forward to moving forward as we transition into the convention phase of things. I want to thank Jonay and Amy and Vanna and Chairman Buckley for giving us this opportunity to kind of go over with you what we've been working on in a much more in-depth and detailed way than we were able to do at the summer meeting in Minneapolis. This is something that we've put a tremendous amount of time into up to this point and have a long way to go. But we felt that coming off of the Minneapolis meeting, now that we've all had the opportunity to catch our breath, it would be good to go over, this with you and to have the opportunity to get your feedback in this, because you all are going to be using this system quite a bit, as are we. And the purpose of this is really to make all of our lives easier as we move to delegate certification earlier next year. Before we get into the system, there's a couple things that I want to flag for you. If we want to go forward into the agenda, just to kind of give an overview of, what it is that we've created. We want to go through a couple of key points. We want to go through the system itself in a slower way, just to, familiarize you with what the feel of this is going to be. This system that we're going to show you today is a prototype. It's probably not going to be what the end product ends up looking like, but the feel is definitely going to be there, and this is what your delegates are going to be using to fill in their information. We want to focus the bulk of this call, though, on getting feedback from you based on kind of what we're showing you. Nothing at this point is set in stone. So we have the opportunity here to, have a good kind of back and forth, and we want to make sure that we're including your feedback as we move forward, because again, you are such a critical part of this process. One thing we're not going to do is get too technical or, go too far into the weeds on what the back end of the system looks like and all of that. But we definitely want to give you a gist of, kind of what all of this is teamed up to look like. And then finally, after that, we just want to go over some brief next steps in this process. So in general, once this system is completed, even when this system is completed, this is going to be a huge departure from what we have done in the past. And it's funny to be saying this as we're in 2015 and moving into 2016, but at this point, all the delegate certification has taken place on paper. And we all know the drawbacks of paper, loose interpretations of numbers. Is it a 3? Is it an 8? Is it a 7? Is it an X? Misspelling of names and words, all these things that are so critical to the end product of what we build up to in convention, which is, the final roll that gets published, all the different levels of information that get shared. So one of the reasons why we came up with this idea to try and build this tool was so that we could kind of eliminate a lot of this on the front end. Again, this is meant to make your lives easier, it's meant to make our lives easier, and it's meant to make the system and this process easier for the delegates and all of our different levels of convention participants. One thing I would flag, and one thing I just want you to know that we are very aware of, this system, this online system, is not going to replace paper. We're not looking for it to replace paper 100%. If we get 40% of the way there this year and can build towards, an even larger number, we'll be happy with that. That's a huge win. So I don't want you to think that, we're forcing everybody to do this online. It's ideal. We would like that. But we know that, there are a lot of delegates in these states who are older, who aren't completely comfortable with using computers. And then there are some people who are just kind of adverse to change. But what we are seeking to do is for those who are not, to make this a lot easier, and that includes you as well. So as we move into the system, just so you can see kind of what it looks like, and this will be familiar to you. This is what we went over in Minneapolis. You know, what we plan to do, just to kind of go back a little bit on this, is to send you, before your primaries or caucuses start, probably at least a week or two out before your primaries or caucuses start, an email. In that email, there will be 8 different links which reflect the 8 different categories of convention participants. For those of you who are relatively new to this, that's our, you know, unpledged delegates, our delegates, our district level delegates, our at-large delegates, alternates, pages, standing committee members, and delegation chair. Within the unpledged delegate category, there's also kind of 4 tiers of delegates within that, which are DNC members, our congressional members, which are House members and Senate members, governors, and former party leaders. But basically, what this email will have is 8 different links, and each of those links will refer to one of these levels of participants. The one that we are going to be using the most, both you and us, is certainly the district level delegates. Of all the convention participants, of all the 8 different types of convention level participants, district level delegates make up 75% of those. So that is the one that you will be sending out the most, you will be interacting with the most. What this is going to require, though, for you all, as you start to plan how this is going to look and how this is going to go, is for you to make sure that you have all of the contact information for these different levels of participants. You will have them. Just as a quick reminder, as part of your delegate selection plans that you submitted, each state had to have a page that had a statement of candidacy and pledge for support form that each person that lives in your state is going to have to fill out and submit to you, maybe even have to submit to the government depending on how your laws work in your state, that says that they intend to run, you know, on the ballot or at convention or however your individual state handles it as a delegate. So you will have the full pool and contact information of, you know, the full universe of people who will ultimately end up being convention delegates well ahead of this process starting. The most critical piece of information that we're interested in on this, though, is their email address, because their email address is what you're going to use to send out the link, depending on which category that they belong to. So as we go through this, you know, what you see up on your screen now is basically what the first kind of web page might look like. It'll have all the basic information, first name, last name, email address. It'll also capture in a future iteration the street address, what their email address is, the state that they're from, the date of birth, and whether or not they are a male or a female. So that's pretty basic. The delegate or convention participant would, you know, fill that information out and click continue. On the next page, what we have is most of the demographic information. And again, a lot of this stuff closely resembles the information that you're collecting on your statement of candidacies and pledge for support forms anyway. But the delegates are going to have the ability to fill this information out. So, you know, are you youth? Are you a senior citizen, LGBTQ? If you're a person with a disability, you'll notice that as Maria clicked through on person with disability, different levels of disability came up. Companion assistance required, hearing impaired, visually impaired, and physical impairment. This is critical because in the past, what we have done, what you have helped us with a lot, is chasing this information right before convention to figure out what the nature of the disability is for a convention participant. This is important for the convention team to know. This is information that we're now going to be able to get them on the front end of things. Where your delegates with disabilities sit and seating within the arena is a big piece of planning that they need to have and to figure out, and now we'll be able to kind of front load this information to them on the front end. So they'll know if someone needs a companion with them. They'll know if their participant is visually impaired or hearing impaired, And that'll all, factor into kind of where they're placed within the convention room. And this is something that the convention team had asked us for on the front end to help with. So now we'll be able to do that. A couple of other levels of demographics we're tracking is whether or not the person is a veteran. And future iterations they'll be able to fill out, what the nature of them being a veteran or vet is. Were they in the Marine Corps, were they in the Army, such and so forth. Same thing with labor. Are they a retiree? What union they're in? What local they're in, if they choose to put it, and whether or not they are a student. So those pretty much cover all the demographic information that we're going to be asked to track this convention. Now, going on to this third page, and this is one of the pieces of feedback actually that I got from many of you immediately in Minneapolis when we showed this. Originally, we had the system set up so the delegate themselves, the convention participant, let me phrase it that way, could self-select what kind of participant they were. So whether they were, pledged, unpledged, whether they were, a pledged standing committee member, so on and so forth. You all were pretty vocal and pretty loud that was a bad idea on the way to do this, which is why we've come up with this system where we will have these 8 different links. That way you will be able to send only to district delegates the district delegate form for them to fill out. You'll be able to send out only to the alternates or only to standing committee participants in your state their specific form for them to fill out. So there's nothing for them to have to self-select when it comes to what category of convention participant they are. That will already be sent to them. And that'll help all of us keep our records much more accurate and much more in line across the board. We have not updated this system for that yet, which is why you see this system as it is. However, what I do want to do is show you on this page what the, what the nuances of the information rather are that we're going to be collecting. So for pledge participant, we have the different levels of classification, whether they're district level delegate, a pledge pleo, at large, an alternate, or a standing committee member. Just click on one of those. For district level delegate, the delegate will be able to put which district number they are from or representing, who they're pledged to. Right now we have all of the candidates on the Democratic side that they can choose from. This will obviously probably be whittled down by the time we get to the point where people are filling this out, whether or not they're an elected official, yes or no. If it's yes, then there's several fields of information that they can fill out to help us kind of track who our mayors or city councilmen or state house representatives are, so on and so forth. And if it's no, then we'll be able to just move forward through and submit the form. But again, the important thing about this page to know is that you'll be sending the delegate classification or the convention participant classification to the person. So if I am a district level delegate from Ohio, then Bill, from you or whoever you designate within the party, after your primary, I'll receive an email, probably with some follow-up information that you will have included to your delegates anyway, but one of the critical pieces will be this specific link for me to fill out that has all my information so we can capture that. Once all that's done and filled out, we'll move to the next page, which is basically a page showing that all the information has been completed. And we're working on getting there now on the system. Right now it's just a dummy page. What it will likely do on this page is say, thank you, you successfully filled out your delegate certification forms. If you have any questions, please contact whoever your point of contact is at the state party. And then we may have some helpful language on there about what the next steps are for them. So one of the next steps will be that they should expect to see an email in their account with a confirmation of this. What we are planning for to happen on the back end of this system after all this information is filled out is that we here in the Secretary's office will get an email confirming that that individual delegate has filled out the system. The delegate will get will get a confirmation email, and your point of contact at the party will get an email as well. Now, whether or not you all decide to set up an individual email account to track this information, or you wanted to go to the actual point of contact email account, is totally up to you, however you want to manage it, but you will get a confirmation that your delegates, your convention participants have filled out this information. I know everyone knows this, but just, a point of housekeeping for us, our process, and this is starting very early in February. I believe New Hampshire goes on February 9th. I know Iowa has their caucuses February 1st. For, primaries, and I know the states that have caucuses do it a little bit differently. Our timeline within the Secretary's office for getting all of your delegates, all of your convention participants certified is 10 days. So if it's February 1st, and by February 11th, we need to have everyone certified. We are working with the convention team to create some incentives for ensuring that this will happen, which we will tell you about at a later date. But that is a deadline that we're going to stick very closely to. What we'll be doing on our end, as you're getting your links out, as delegates are filling in their information, or against convention participants are filling in their information, is working to track this with you. Ahead of all of this happening, you will know who from my office you will be working with as your direct point of contact. That person will be checking daily to see, what rate your convention participants are returning their forms back. This is meant to kind of help us and both help you kind of keep track of all of the tracking down of people that we have to do on such a short timeline. I think, when it comes to delegate certification, this is certainly one of the most aggressive parts of the process and can be one of the most stressful parts. Our hope is to make this as least cumbersome and least stressful for you. If you are in a state like Pennsylvania, where you may have a lot of, retired delegates or older delegates who aren't necessarily, computer savvy, you will have the ability on your end to create your own accounts at the state party where you can sit on the phone with them and take their information and enter their information in. If they don't want to do that and they prefer to do this by paper and they want to fax it to you, or they want to drive it by the state party headquarters, they can certainly do that too. We will take paper. We will do the same thing on our end. What we do want to do, though, is be as helpful as possible and as efficient as possible in making this, as seamless and as easy all the way around for your delegates, for you, and certainly for us in this process. So this, again, is just a brief kind of overview on the direction that we're going, on the feel of what the system is going to be. We're going to try and make it as user-friendly and as easy as possible. We are here as a resource. We want to work with you, and we certainly want to hear from you. So I guess with that, if there is any initial feedback or questions that anyone has, we'll be open to taking those now.
Thank you so much, Julie. And just a reminder for those of you who have not been a part of our webinars prior to today, we can take your questions from the questions box on your GoToMeeting module. There's a section that says type in your question. We can take them there. That's probably the easiest way to answer a question, just given the static and the feedback of unmuting your line. But if you're unable to type your question in the questions box, you can click the raise my hand icon and we can try and get you unmuted.
So this is Julie again, I'm sorry, just to kind of finish this off. The next iteration of this system that you will see will be our hopefully completed system. And that will happen at the ASDC meeting in December. Jonae has assured me we'll have enough time on the schedule this time to go through it with you all. So this is not the first time that you're going to hear from us. This is not the first time that you're going to see us or see the system before you actually have to start working with it. again, we want to make this as easy and open and user-friendly as possible. So with that, I'm good for questions.
Great. So I will read the questions aloud. We have a question from Chairwoman Solon from Democrats Abroad. Do you want to add other drop-down options for the 3 different standing committee delegates for the 3 different committees which they will join?
That's something that we can look at doing, certainly, yeah.
Okay. From Diane Bowman in Pennsylvania, explain again what the 10 days deadline is about around February.
Sure. So it's not necessarily around February. In whatever month your caucus or primary is, and these come directly from the delegate selection rules, each state has 10 days from their primary to certify into the secretary's office, so into my office and to my team, your full list of convention participants. So there is a 10-day deadline from the point that your delegates are identified, whether that's by election at your convention, on the ballot, in the primary, at your caucus, however you do it, 10-day deadline to get all of those participants certified.
Great. The next question is from Bill DeMora in Ohio. I have every intention to input every one of my delegates myself. I am not going to send out links and allow them to do it themselves. Will I be able to do that?
Yes, you will be able to do that. You know, and we know that each state party wants to do it in a different way. If that is the way, you know, multiple states want to do it, that is totally fine. What we are trying not to do is burden you with more staff requirements on this than is needed. Also, another thing that we are working with our tech developers on is if you want to capture all this information in a spreadsheet, and we can send you the spreadsheet, it'll be a TSL looking file, and just kind of put all that information there. We'll also have the ability to upload it in our and have it. So yes, Bill, you will be able to do that. If there are other executive directors on who would like to do that, that is fine. For, you know, states with hundreds of delegates like in New York or Florida or California, what we didn't want to do was create, you know, something that would be more burdensome to your staff.
Great. So from Glenn Maxey, you said we'll know who has filled it out. Will we be able to see their responses to all the questions so we can proof them from our side? In other words, make sure they answered everything correctly.
Yes. And if you would like at any point during the course of those 10 days or even after those 10 days for us to pull a list and send it to you that has everything in one place, separated by category, we will have the ability to do that.
Great. So from Maria Brewer in Tennessee, what's the right contact info for questions or contact for the Secretary's office? And the contact information is on here, but I'll have them answer.
Sure. My direct contact information here at the DNC, my email is greenej@dnc.org. My direct line here at the DNC is 202-488-5015.
Great. Question from Julia Lee. Could there be a final screen where the delegate reviews and checks their information they have entered? It might be good for them to be able to catch errors.
I think that's a good suggestion, Julia.
Okay. Doug Wilson in North Carolina. What is the due date for this information to be into the DNC?
The due date for this information that we just went over in the system to be into the DNC is that 10th day after your caucus or primary. So there is a tentative/final-ish calendar that is out that Party Affairs has. If you don't have it, they will be more than happy to provide it to you. On that, each state has a date listed as to when their caucus or primary is. Now, we know there are exceptions. Iowa, we know that you do things a little bit later and so on and so forth. So we are making exceptions for the exceptions, but for most of the states, it is that 10 days to have your delegates or convention participants certified into our office.
Great. From Chris Myers in California, will you have the option to list tribal affiliation when you check Native American?
We can add that.
Great. Justin Ailport, if a delegate enters wrong information into the form and I catch the error, will I be able to edit it electronically, or will I have to contact the Office of the Secretary?
You'll be able to edit it electronically. We actually have started a lot of questions just around security and authentication and making sure that you all kind of have the ability to go in and do that sort of thing. Certainly we'll be able to on our end, but we are working through those issues. But yes, the goal is for you know, if you see errors, to be able to have those errors corrected.
Great. Another question from Doug Wilson in North Carolina. Our delegates will be elected at the district convention level in May, with the remaining at our state convention in June. There will be 2 months. This will be 2 months after our primary. Is it okay for us to turn this information to the DNC after our district and state convention?
Yeah, we know a couple of states have that similar situation where, you know, you have your caucus or primary and then your actual election happens a little bit later because your state convention is a little later. For those of you who are on the later side, I can't stress enough how important sticking within that 10-day window is going to be. Our convention is in July 25th. Lord, don't let me make it come sooner than so my mistake. But yeah, this is actually a little bit of a stress point for the convention team right now, just in terms of housing and things like that. All will be fine, but we have to get that information in onto our temporary roll, you know, all of this as soon as possible, especially if you have participants that have a disability of some sort. It's all really tied together. And just so you all know, we're building this system so that it can talk both to convention and to party affairs so that we're all on the same page at all times with this. So this should be good, and you know, we're really looking forward to having this tool. But yes, that question.
Great. And then Tennessee, similar question. If district at-large and PLEO candidates are all elected on different days, does the 10-day deadline float relative to each election date, or is it 10 days after the final delegates are elected?
I will need to check that technicality with party affairs, but I believe it floats. Don't hold me to that. I just need to verify that with them.
Okay. So Maria, we'll have to follow up with you.
Yeah.
So Glenn Maxey asks, could we upload most of this that's on our delegate applications and then they just add things that we don't know?
Let me investigate that. Yeah, I mean, again, we were very gun shy of kind of putting too much of the burden on this on the state parties. But for those of you who are more willing to take more of an active role in this, we certainly want to provide you the ability to do so. So let me circle back with our developers.
Great. Diane Bowman from Pennsylvania asks, is it 10 days after the primary or after the election has been certified by the Department of State?
After the primary, after the day.
Okay. And Glenn Maxey asks, on disability, I didn't see a wheelchair needed option. Can we add that?
Yes. I mean, this is all helpful because you all are seeing things and catching things that we're not and that you know are going to be needed. So this is exactly the reason for doing this call and getting this kind of feedback, because we're so far in the weeds, you know, on this from the developmental and technical side and what reads to what and what things are going to look like, that I can't tell you enough how much we appreciate this kind of feedback.
Great. So it looks like we have a hand raised from Edward Wisham. So you are unmuted if you would like to ask a question. Edward? Okay, maybe not. All right. Again, another question on the wheelchair. Whether they are bringing their own or need access at the convention.
I'll need to check with the convention team on that. I don't know that they're providing them or that they aren't. So let me just check with them and see what their plans are, and then we can make adjustments.
Great.
And in the new form, we added a physical assistant so they can write it.
Great. So are there any further questions? You can type them into the questions box.
Even if there aren't, I would say, you know, as you all sit with this, as we move forward from this call, if there are things that you think of, if, you know, there's a spark that goes off in your head on something that you think might be helpful, please, you know, shoot that email or shoot that information to myself and Maria. You know, we're very open to hearing the feedback. We want, you know, to make this a system that's, you know, usable for you, usable for your delegates, however, you know, you decide to get this information in or out, however much you want to control the process from your end or not. You know, this is very helpful to us and certainly information that we're going to be communicating back. We're moving into a phase right now in the life of this project where some pretty heavy developing is going to start to happen, you know, based on, again, your feedback from Minneapolis, based on the feedback from this call. So if you do have additional feedback, if you could get that into us within the next week, that would be extremely helpful. And just know that, again, you will see a finalized or a more finalized system in December. We will go over things like you being able to upload spreadsheets of information, you know, into the system, how this is all being tracked. You know, a lot of the finer points will be worked out by then, and a lot of the feedback that you gave us today should be reflected. So again, I just want to say thank you, and again, if you have any questions at any point in time about any point of this process, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us and let us know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julie, and thank you, Maria. Again, this is the beginning of the process, as Julie mentioned, and so we look forward to continued conversations, both via email correspondence or any notifications they may send out that will make sure that gets to all of you and to the responsible persons in your state. And as she mentioned, we'll have actually a great deal of time in Charleston to talk through the system. And Julie has one more thing before we close.
I have one more thing on that contact information sheet. On that last slide, there's also something that says deadline, and I meant to mention this at the top, but it would be very helpful to my office if you all could identify who your delegate point of contact is going to be at the state party. So whether it's your executive director or someone who you're specifically going to be tasking with this delegate certification piece, if you could let us know by November 9th, it's a Monday, so we could put together that list and start communicating more directly with you. If there is more than one person we should be communicating with on this, you know, please shoot us, you know, all that information as well. But that's a critical piece in this because we want to make sure that we're getting this information where it needs to go, that we know who we're talking to, that, you know, anything that we may need to troubleshoot later on in the process, we're troubleshooting with the right person. So that's really it. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Julie. And again, thank you all for joining and being a part of this process in its beginning stages. We look forward to getting all of your great feedback, a lot of which was mentioned today. And we'll continue to be in touch as this process rolls out. Thank you all, and we'll talk to you again soon.